All right, this video is meant to showcase an old project of mine that I'd made back in my second programming class. That was a good, oh man, three years ago, I think. Back then we were taught C Sharp, so we used Unity a lot just as a little playground. This is the first time I actually made a game. Um, it's quite simple. I called it Cube Wizard for pretty obvious reasons. You're playing as a wizard who is a cube, as is everything. Um, I remember at the time we were learning about inheritance, so that's kind of what a good focus of this project was just making an enemy class and then having different variables of different kinds of enemies. So it's just a basic wave survival game. My UI is terrible up here. But it does give you the basics of what wave you're on, how much health you have, etc. Once you hit wave 5 here, then different enemies should start spawning, little fast guys that are weaker. And I have the 3 different spells. So there's Bolt, which I have been using, which is medium damage, pretty fast firing. Oh lord. I also have a Fireball, which does a little bit more damage, but it shoots slower. As you can clearly see, assets were not my top priority for this, but I actually really enjoy the aesthetic, so I actually made a second iteration of this for another class that I'll showcase at some point, which keeps a lot of the same art style, but it looks a little better. I have the Fireball spell. I also have this Icebeam spell, which was actually an accident. I didn't really intend to shoot so many projectiles, but I thought it looked really cool, so I just kept it. And it's probably overpowered, but it's still really cool, so I thought I'd keep it. So yeah, there's just 3 different kinds of enemies as you get to, I think it was wave 7 is when these big guys started spawning. I just have 4 spawn points on the map, and every time you complete a wave, it randomly generates a certain number of enemies based on how many waves there are. So the more waves there are, the higher number it could generate. I really wanted to dabble with a little bit of RNG for this project. So man, I can also go through walls because back then I didn't know that using position.transform was terrible. At least if there is a way to implement it without having a bunch of issues, I haven't found it for player movement anyways. Another focus of this project was also just using, this was my first time implementing any kind of AI. So I just used Unity's simple nav mesh to run these guys through the ropes. So eventually they'll end me, and then it will just say that you are dead and you survived to this certain wave. I'm trying to remember. I don't think that at this stage I was saving high scores. That was another project down the road. But yeah, this was my first attempt at kind of making a game, and I'm pretty proud of it. And then, like I said, I made a second iteration that I'll show at some point that was a little bit better. And I'm also hopefully going to make a third iteration that's a full-blown game that I'll release on, I don't know where yet. But yeah, that was Cube Wizard iteration 1.